Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I have a massive book haul for you, and when I say massive, I do mean I think this is the biggest book haul that I have ever done here on my channel. I just sat here and counted literally every book, and there are 75 books. Yes, 75 books. I don't know whether to be really excited about that number or absolutely horrified by that number, considering these are all books I have gotten mainly from just this year so far. But before you sit there and judge me, I will say I got 40-ish of these while in Nashville, and all of them were technically free with book trade credit. So I've been holding off on doing this massive book haul for you guys, and I am so excited. And I think part of my excitement is because I really nailed down my reading taste and what I really love in each of these genres, especially in the past year. So I feel like I'm very excited and I'm going to love all of these books. I'm so happy to be adding them to my shelves, but this is going to make for a long video. So let me just say, I would go ahead and grab yourself a snack, a cup of tea, whatever it is, because we are just going to jump right into this. I am going to categorize them by genre, so if there's a genre you are absolutely not interested in, I will try to leave a timestamp down below. I should also probably mention I did get some of these for my birthday from friends. Some of them may actually be from Christmas because I haven't done a book haul since then, but mainly these are from this year. Just wanted to clarify that. If you did get me one of these books, thank you so much. I could not make this video without thanking my friends again for gifting me some fun books. Okay, let's just go ahead and finally jump right in, starting with our fantasy books. The first book I have is Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett, and what's funny about this book is I have seen so many people excited about this, but not a single person I know has actually read this. I just know it's a cozy fantasy. It, I think, has like diary entries. There's a quirky professor that studies fairies, and I know it has like cottagecore kind of vibes. And after reading Legends and Lattes, I was very much looking forward to this book because I love a good cozy kind of slower paced fantasy. I absolutely cannot wait to put this on my March TBR because I am so excited. I feel like it could potentially be 5 stars from everything that I'm reading about just from the back. I am so here for this one, and I'm hoping to love it as much as everyone seemingly is hoping to love it as well. And then we have A Dawn of Onyx by Kate Golden. I know nothing about this book other than my friend Caitlin from Pride and Paperback was talking about it non-stop. She said this is the perfect fantasy romance book. I feel like there's just nothing quite like a romantasy book. I do know this one is on Kindle Unlimited, but I don't have Kindle Unlimited, so I did get the paperback. Plus I love this gorgeous cover. I know absolutely nothing, so I am trusting one of my friends, and I am just gonna dive right in and we will see what happens. This next book is one that definitely just snuck up on me where the hype got to me because I saw this book on Goodreads, I think because of Elias. I love his fantasy recommendations, and I was like, how in the world could there be that many reviews for this book? And I have never even seen it before, and that is The Goblin Emperor by Catherine Addison. Literally know nothing. Absolutely nothing about this book, but it is one of the highest rated books or fantasy books I have seen on Goodreads, and I just need to know. Like, I need to know what this is. I want to add more adult fantasy to my shelves, and I love this cover. Like, look at the little eyes or the face here. It just cracks me up. I am just gonna see what happens with this one. I also have a more magical realism contemporary romance, but mystery. I don't even know how to describe this book, but it's a debut called The Minuscule Mansion of Myra Malone, and it's by Audrey Burgess. It sounds so cool. There are parallel worlds worlds. Like I said, there's romance. There is just so much packed into this book that really has piqued my curiosity. It just sounds like another cozy fantasy possibly that I think I could really love. Next we have the long-awaited Mysteries of Thorn Manor by Margaret Rogerson. I have been waiting so long for this book. It is so tiny and so cute in comparison to like a bigger book. I think it's so adorable, although I wish we did get a little more of her writing, but that's okay. I will take it until she comes out with her next book. But this one I know nothing about other than it's Margaret Rogerson. It's set in the same world, and I think it just follows our main character. I'm interested to see how the story kind of continues. The next book I have is Echo North by Joanna Ruth Meyer, and I have been eyeing this book for literally years, and I'm so glad I finally found it at a very discounted price. This book sounds so amazing. There is an enchanted house beneath a mountain, and each room must be sewn together to keep the home from unraveling, and something new and dark and strange lies behind every door. It just sounds very magical, but also kind of dark. Something about this is just really speaking to me. It just sounds like my vibe. Next, I have The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwen, and I have been hearing so much about this adult fantasy world, especially from Elliot Brooks, and she has top tier adult fantasy recommendations, so this is one of, I think, her favorite series. This one has to do with a Norse-inspired world packed with myth, magic, and bloody vengeance. Also, this was blurbed by J. Kristoff, Robin Hobb. I love J. Kristoff, and he said, visceral, heartbreaking, and unputdownable. The next book I have that is a new recent release, but I'm planning to save more for like the spooky kind of fall season. It's called City of Nightmares by Rebecca Schaefer. I'm just gonna read you the back because this sounds absolutely terrifying, and I don't think I've ever read like such a dark, creepy fantasy, but it sounds so good at the same time. My jaw tightens, and for a moment I'm back in my childhood home, hiding in the cupboard as I listen to my father's bones crunch and crack, the slurping sound as the giant spider that was once my sister sucks the marrow out. I can't keep living like this, always hiding when the monster comes out. Either I do something or that girl dies. This is it. The moment of truth. Does this not just sound like an absolute nightmare? I already hate spiders. I'm deathly afraid of them, and I don't know why I'm gonna torture myself like this, but I don't know. I've never heard of a creepy fantasy like this, and it could be absolutely perfect for fall, and it could be an absolute 5-star. The next book I have is The Sisters of the Winterwood by Rena Rossner, and it's funny because I have passed up this book so many times, pretty much every single time I go into Barnes & Noble. It looks so good, but I never hear anyone talking about it. So this is like my year to pick up books that I don't see many people talk about. There's dark magic and a family secret that's been passed down through generations, and if there is a good sister dynamic, I am so here for it. And I also believe this is a standalone, which is really getting hard to find these days in fantasy, so I'm super excited about this. This book, called Small Angels by Lauren Owen, sounds right up my alley. It sounds like another kind of haunted fantasy tale. Just from the first line in the flap, it says, in a hypnotic tale of sisterhood, first love, and hauntings, a wedding in a small English village stirs up unsettling magic and forces a troubled family's secrets out into the open. Hello? All of those are huge buzzwords for me, and I keep hearing mixed reviews about this one, but I don't even care. I just want to figure out and discover for myself if I'm gonna love this one. It looks like it has multiple points of view. I think it was even a book of the month choice if I didn't mention that already, so hopefully that means good things. The next book, which I am so excited for, you guys I'm sure have seen this everywhere, is Keeper of Enchanted Rooms. I feel like I'm gonna say this for most of these books that I do not know much about these books, but I am one of those people that's like, if I am getting a vibe from a book whether it's the cover, whether there are buzzwords like this one that has magical elements, there are different like rooms that have different magical abilities. I'm just gonna pick it up and see what I think about it and not think too hard about it and just read what I want to read, and that's kind of what this one is for me. I have heard good cozy fantasy, even mystery vibes from this. Genuinely, I am especially excited for this one. Next, I have a more backlist Brando Sando, and that is The Rhythmatist. This sounds so incredible and so different from anything he's ever written. It says, more than anything, Joel wants to be a rhythmatist. Rhythmatists have the power to infuse life into two-dimensional figures known as chalklings. They are humanity's only defense against the wild chalklings, merciless creatures that leave mangled corpses in their wake. It also has to do with a son or a boy that goes to this academy. I'm assuming he probably learns how to handle these like crazy wild chalklings, but I do really enjoy Brandon's creative mind and ideas and how he's just so unique and stands out from any other fantasy I've ever read. And I do know this one reads more young adult, or it's supposed to be young adult, so I feel like his adult is kind of over my head a lot of times, but hopefully this one will be super enjoyable. This is another book that definitely got me with the hype. It's called Song of Silver Flame Like Night. This cover is absolutely stunning, and if there is a fantasy book that's also Asian inspired, I am more than likely to pick it up because Asian culture is just so vibrant and beautiful. There's so much folklore that goes into their stories and mythology, and I'm pretty sure that's also what this one has to do with. I think our main character has like this magical ability, but the magical ability is hidden in her arm or something very intriguing like that. The magical system in this one just sounds very complicated but also very original, which I am very excited to see. And this was also the young adult book club for Barnes & Noble, so hopefully that means something good. The next book I have is Garden Spells by Sarah Addison Allen. Absolutely would love to read this in the springtime. It's also giving me practical magic vibes because in this book we have sisters who I think have some type of magical ability. But my friend Kaylin absolutely loved this book and said it's a new time favorite of hers. So of course I'm gonna pick it up and see what it's about. And it just sounds like a very enchanting, atmospheric, kind of slower story. But honestly, I'm so here for that. Next, I have A Wilderness of Stars by Shay Earnshaw. If you guys have been here for any amount of time, you all know I love Shay Earnshaw. I actually started reading this. I got 100 pages in and unfortunately DNF'd it. So I do not know if I'm going to end up unhauling this. I really want to give it another chance because her writing is so good and so atmospheric, and I was really excited for this one because it does sound kind of like it has more sci-fi elements to it, but unfortunately it was just reading like historical fiction for me, and I'm not usually the biggest fan of that. This one is not working for me with the plot, and even the atmosphere feels a little bit lacking. Maybe I'm just struggling to grasp the world this is in, but either way, I wanted to haul this to share it with you because I was really excited about it. I also have One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig, which I am so hyped for. This sounds so dark and creepy. Elspeth Spindle needs more than luck to stay safe in the eerie, mislogged kingdom of Blunder. She needs a monster. She calls him the Nightmare, an ancient spirit trapped in her head. He protects her. He keeps her secrets, but nothing comes for free, especially magic. This just sounds very creepy, but also the synopsis leaves a lot to your imagination, which I love, and it sounds a little bit more psychological, which also sounds very unique. I recently picked up The Last Tale of the Flower Bride in my Book of the Month box, and this just sounds absolutely amazing. I never read The Gilded Wolves. I still own it. I still would love to read it, but maybe if I read this and love it, that will motivate me to read her backlist. But it says a sumptuous gothic-infused story about a marriage that is unraveled by dark secrets, a friendship cursed to end in tragedy, and the danger of believing in fairy tales. Are you kidding me? We have fairy tales, secrets, friendship, tragedy. It just sounds like so much weaved into one, and it also sounds super atmospheric. Give me a gothic book any day and I will be a happy camper. I also have the Atlas 6, which I have to show you the inside of this book because I was unaware that there's actually character illustrations in just the normal hardcover. This is not a special edition, and I am so excited to read this despite everyone's terrible reviews. A lot of people seem like they were excited about it, but I know this is more kind of dark academia. So other than that, I'm going into this completely blind, which I feel like is the right way to go with this book. I would love to see for myself if I end up loving this and if dark academia is really for me, because I have not read enough from that genre to really know yet. I also picked up The Cartographers, which was another book of the month choice, but I got at a discounted price, and this sounds so amazing. It says a highly imaginative thriller about a young woman who discovers that a strange map in her deceased father's belongings holds an incredible deadly secret, one that will lead her on an extraordinary adventure into the truth about her father's dark history. I guess this is actually a thriller. This whole time I was thinking it was magical realism. So honestly, that kind of makes me want to pick it up even more. It reminds me so much of National Treasure, to be honest, and I adore National Treasure. So I'm very eager to jump into this one. Before we get into the full-on thrillers, I do have like a couple horror thrillers, only two, but two that I am very excited about. I have the one, the only, How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix, which I loved, and I rated 4.5, not quite 5 stars, because 5 stars is for my best friend's exorcism. I don't think he will ever peak that high again, at least not in my opinion, but I loved this so much. It's basically about siblings whose parents pass away and they go back to their parents' house to get rid of all of their stuff and to sell the house, and some creepy weird things start happening, especially with puppets. And it is just a wild trip, but I read it in less than 24 hours. So if that tells you anything, I don't know what does, but I absolutely adored this. I will literally pick up anything Grady Hendrix writes. It's humorous, it's dark, it's always got a great lesson, and it's not like super duper gory horror. Like, it's enough to where I can take it, and I'm not super scarred for life, but this one was just so fun, and I loved it so much. And then I have the Twisted Ones by T. Kingfisher, which I feel like is slowly becoming a new favorite author for me because her writing is insanely good. It's so atmospheric, it's unputdownable, and I don't think I've technically read a thriller by this author yet. It's been more fantasy or of the fantasy genre. In this one, I believe our main character's grandmother passes away and she's given the task of going to the house, cleaning out the house, but I think she finds some weird things in her grandfather's journal or something like that, and it gives me haunted house vibes, or kind of the haunting of Bly Manor or whatever it is, kind of those same vibes. I am so here for this. I'm so excited, but I'm also really scared because I know what this author does with fantasy, about how kind of grotesque it can be. So I'm very nervous, but honestly more excited than nervous. I also have another thriller called The Younger Wife by Sally Hepworth. I read The Good Sister, rated it 4 stars, absolutely loved it. I loved the characters, and something about Sally Hepworth that I've learned is she's not necessarily thriller, she's more literary suspense, and it's very character driven. And she's actually coming to my town, to my local indie bookstore, for a discussion and a book signing, so I really want to get to read more of her books before April if possible. So I decided to pick this one up because I feel like it's probably going to be the next best one that I love. Next, I have another book that I was influenced by my friend Lena from Lena's Bookshelf, called The Lost Girls of Willowbrook. As far as I know, this could possibly be her favorite book of all time, or currently stands as her favorite book of all time. It is historical fiction, but what really stuck out to me is there's a sister dynamic. I think they're even twins, and I think one is taken to an asylum, which sounds really crazy, and I guess the other one ends up looking for her, or maybe they get switched. somehow. I don't know, but it sounds like such a crazy ride, and even though it is historical, this sounds like it could stand alone as just like a really good thriller. So I'm very pumped to see why Lana loves this so much. Next, I have The Arrangement by Kirsten Modglin. I have heard so much about this author lately. As far as I know, she writes bingeable, kind of popcorn thriller type domestic thrillers. And even though domestic isn't really my cup of tea, I need to know why the heck this author has written so many books in such little time. Like, that is incredible. Other than the fact that I've seen this author around so much lately, there's really no other point to why I picked this up. I just want to see if I love this author as much as everyone else. And then I also have The One by John Mars, which I do not know why in the world it's taken me so long to pick this one up. I absolutely adored the Netflix show, and while I've heard the Netflix show is really good, everyone says that the book is 10 times better. It's similar but also different, and I really think that John Mars could be like a new favorite thriller author for me if I finally just set aside the time to dive into his work. This is long overdue, and I'm so excited to finally have this book. The next book, called The Housemaid, is one that reminds me a lot of The Turn of the Key or even Hidden Pictures. We have a housemaid that discovers that the family she works for has some deep, dark, crazy secrets. I'm not sure if it's more domestic, but it's kind of giving me those vibes. I have seen this author blow up once again in the past year. The ratings are absolutely phenomenal, and I've had friends who have given this book 5 stars. I'm very curious about this one, and I feel like this year is especially about discovering new thriller authors, because I tend to read a lot of backlist from people that I know I love, but I really want to find like a new good favorite thriller author, so I'm super pumped about this one. Next, I have The Family Game by Catherine Steadman, another mystery thriller author I have not read from, but I am very excited because this sounds like Knives Out or The Inheritance games. This sounds like a very fast-paced but high-stakes thriller, and that's what I'm all about with my thrillers. Give me all the action, give me like less romance and drama. I just want to see a lot of plot in my thrillers, so I feel like I could really be into this one, and hopefully I will want to pick up the rest of the author's books. Next, I have The Hacienda, which I have wanted to pick up for absolute ages because it's a thriller, but it's Gothic inspired, and I've heard this book is what a lot of people wanted Mexican Gothic to be, and I didn't care for Mexican Gothic that much. It was like a 3, so I felt okay about it, but if I could end up loving this one even more, I will take it. I know a lot of people don't care for fantastical elements or paranormal or supernatural, I guess you could say, elements to their mystery thrillers, but because I'm such a big fantasy reader, I love that in my thrillers, so I'm really hoping that this one could be my jam. This next book I have been eyeing once again for absolute ages. Every time I go to the store, I almost pick it up, and because I saw it for a discounted price, I felt it was my time to shine and buy it, and if I don't like it, I paid less money for it, or actually no money if you're considering my trade credit, and that is Never Saw Me Coming. This one sounds very creepy because you have a freshman honor student that's in high school who's an actual psychopath, and I believe her fellow students actually take it upon them to like study her or something. Like there's some type of trial or case study that happens, and I honestly don't know what to expect from this book, but there is different days, it looks like. Things happen on different days, so it sounds like it could be like a short amount of time, but it sounds really interesting because I don't think I've read a thriller where the psychopath is a high school student that young, which is really freaking scary to think about in today's world, but we're not going to think about that anymore. We're just going to read about it in books, apparently. This next book is another one that I have almost picked up multiple times while I'm in the store, and that's just because the Goodreads reviews and the ratings. There are so many ratings on this book. It's Every Last Fear by Alex Finley. This twisty and breathtaking novel that traces the fate of the Pine family, a thriller that will both leave you on the edge of your seat and move you to tears. So this definitely sounds like it could be a little bit more domestic or emotional, which I do not get that from this because I think this is more of like a detective story possibly. But I think I first heard about this from Kayla from Books and Lala, and I think she actually really enjoys this one. I could be wrong, but I know she actually really likes this author. So once again, we are trying to branch out and discover some new favorite thriller authors. This one has really great reviews, so we're gonna give it a shot. Next, I have another one of my book of the month choices, The Writing Retreat. I've never heard of this author. I actually don't even know if this is a debut. It could possibly be, but I do know that there are authors that go on this retreat and they know nothing about the challenge because I think the host tells them they have to complete a novel while they're there. It does look very wintry, so I'm hoping to read this one very soon. I have never read like a thriller that's a little bit more isolated like this, and I think it could be really interesting, especially when you involve writers or bookish things or people. I think it's just gonna be a really fun time. Diving now into a couple contemporary books, starting us with Before the Coffee Gets Cold. With this book, I actually started listening to it on audio because my library had it. I saw it was super short and I had to stop because I knew this was going to be a 5-star book and I knew I was going to need to own this book for myself. This is going to take me on a journey. I already know it. I think it's about this like coffee shop that takes you back in time, or it has to do with time travel, so there is some magical realism involved for sure, but this just sounds like such a gripping story. I typically love anything that's been translated from Japanese, so hopefully this one doesn't do me wrong. I feel like because I already got a taste for it, I'm gonna love it. This book I have never ever heard about, called Mika in Real Life, until Jesse from Jesse the Reader was talking about this, and I knew I needed it in my life because I think it ended up on his favorites list from last year, and I don't know how I haven't heard about this. It sounds hilarious but also emotional. All I know about this is it's about a single mom that is trying to make her way through life and navigate jobs and things that get thrown her way, but we also have like notes and emails and things in here. I think she's even talking to an adoption agency because of her daughter, and that is a big topic that holds a special place in my heart because of my sisters. So I'm very much looking forward to this one because I feel like it's completely unexpected. I would have never picked this up, but because of the themes that seem to be in this book already, I think this could be one of those books that just feels like it was written for me. Next, I have Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, written by Gabrielle Zevin, which I have not heard a single poor thing about, and when that happens, I typically always pick a book up to see for myself and hope I'm not in the minority, but I don't know anything about this one other than our two characters are friends. I think they're video game creators, and they just go through life together. I honestly have no idea what this could be about. I do know this author wrote AJ Fikry, and I am also really interested in a storied life of AJ Fikry because I've had it on my shelves for actual years, and I'm hoping that if I love this, I will finally be motivated to read that book, which I feel like it should be flip-flopped, but that's okay. We're just going with this. I'm actually going to be buddy reading this with a couple friends next month, and I'm super looking forward to seeing why everybody loves this. Next, we're going to dive into a little bit of romance, starting us off with Pride and Prejudice with this gorgeous edition that my friend Kendall gave me. Truth be told, I actually have never read Pride and Prejudice. I don't even own it. So when she was getting rid of this, I was like, I will take that. Thank you. This is absolutely stunning. I'm so excited to add it to my shelves. Look at these end pages. Oh my goodness. Honestly, this is just so pretty. That's the only reason I wanted to own it, but I am hoping to actually finally read this at some point. Next, I have The Friend Zone by Abby Jimenez. If you guys have seen my latest vlog ranting and raving about Part of Your World, this makes sense why I would pick this one up. I know that this one has to do with infertility, so if that is a trigger for you, please tread lightly going into this series, but it just sounds like a very emotional time, but also if there's any type of banter like was in her other book, and the cute moments and the swoony moments. Like, I just know I'm gonna love this so much. Next, I have When in Rome by Sarah Adams. This one I do know is so good from so many of my friends that have read this. It's about a pop star that's a girl, and then the guy is actually a baker. I don't know how they meet. I don't know like what exactly happens in this book. Hopefully they fall in love, but other than that, I trust my friends. Abby Jimenez also blurbed this, and I feel like it's just gonna be such a great wholesome romance. I also have Things You Save in a Fire by Catherine Center, which is one that my friend Jordan convinced me to pick up. I have seen this a lot around Bookstagram, literally nonstop for the past few years. I do know our main character is a firefighter, I believe, and she is used to being in emergency situations for other people, but then she ends up in some crazy emergency situations of her own. I hope she ends up falling in love, but I don't know much about this one other than that. Jordan also convinced me to finally pick up The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. I thought this was a young adult, but the fact that the back says a steamy romance must mean that it's actually adult. So I don't know how I got that confused, but the only thing I know about this is it takes place in Alaska. I think the girl may fall in love with like the pilot that flies her to Alaska. I do know this one is a little bit more on the sad side, which I am here for, and I'm finally excited to just kind of see why everybody loves this one so much. Ever since I read The Dead Romantics, I've been on the hunt for another romance that is a little bit more paranormal, that is a little bit more creepy or has like fantastical elements to it, but isn't full out romance fantasy, if that makes sense. I feel like it's such a niche kind of book or genre, and I have been seeing a lot of people compare The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy to having similar vibes to that one. Last but not least, I have Better Than Fiction by Alexa Martin that I still really need to read. I was hoping to read this around Valentine's Day. I've never heard of it before. I only picked it up because of the cover, and it has bookish vibes. I think the girl's actually a bookshop owner or a bookseller, so this just sounds perfect for like any book nerd, and especially someone that loves romance. The next three books are actually middle grade books, and it has been a very long time since I've picked up a middle grade book. That's not to say I don't love it anymore, but I feel like there hasn't been a middle grade that super piqued my interest until Kelly Barnhill wrote The Ogress and the Orphans. I loved The Girl Who Drank the Moon because of the classic kind of fairy tale vibes, and this one feels very much like Jack and the Beanstalk meets Shrek. I don't even know if that makes sense, but with like cozy cute fantasy vibes. I also decided to pick up Elatsoe, which I think is how you pronounce the title. I'm not exactly sure, but once again, this is just a book that I saw on so many people's favorites list, I think from 2021. The fact that it's middle grade and a lot of people that put this on their list don't typically read middle grade says a lot. I'm very just curious about this one. I feel like this one could broaden my horizons in regards to middle grade, because when I pick up middle grade, it's usually a little bit more fantasy. Next, I want to talk about The Magnificent Monsters of Cedar Street, which, can we appreciate this cover? Look at these like creepy but adorable little monsters, and this art style is kind of giving me Series of Unfortunate Event vibes. Cordelia Clay loves the work she and her father do together, saving and healing remarkable creatures. One morning, Cordelia awakens to discover that her father has disappeared along with nearly all the monsters. So it sounds like we have a little bit of mystery in here. I hope it's everything that I want it to be. Now we are going to dive into our cozy mysteries, which I did get a pretty big stack of. They were all so cheap, like 50 cents to $4. So some of these are from series I haven't even started yet that I don't even really know if I'm gonna like, but I feel like from what I've heard from other friends that read cozy mysteries that I am actually gonna like them. And the first one is Live and Let Chai by Bree Baker, a seaside cafe mystery. So I also picked up A Call for Kelp and Tide and Punishment. I know that this one actually has a little bit of romance to it, but other than that, it is just a mystery that is set on the seaside at a cafe, and it sounds super cute. I also got numbers 2 and 3 of the Lori Cass Book Mobile Cat Mystery Series. I do own the first one, and hopefully I like the first one enough to continue on. I mean, hello, you have cats, but you also have like a traveling bookshop. I have number 2 of A Magical Bookshop Mystery by Amanda Flower called Pros and Cons. I think this could really be my jam because there's fantasy mixed in with the mystery, and I already know that I really enjoy that, so saw this, could not say no. I'm gonna talk about these next two together because they're both like bookshop kind of mysteries. We have Murder by the Book by Lauren Elliott, and we also have The Cracked Spine. This one is a Scottish bookshop mystery. I mean, look at that little dog at the bottom. And this one is just really popular. As far as I know, this one takes place at like a public library. Couldn't resist picking these up because they were so cheap, but also I have not read anything by either one of these authors. Then we have Get Away with Murder, A Mountain of Trouble is Coming by Diane Kelly. Look at this adorable white cat on the front. I love cozy mysteries because they always have cats on the covers. And this one takes place in the Blue Ridge Mountains, which is very close to where I live, but this one has to do with a yoga retreat. And I also love yoga. So this just sounds like something that would be right up my alley because it just has two things that I really love. Another bookshop mystery that I forgot to mention is The Ghost and Mrs. McClure, which is a haunted bookshop mystery. I'm hoping this one is good. I've seen a lot of people talk about it, and I think it is a pretty backlist title from what I remember. Yeah, it's from 2004, and the cover looks kind of outdated, but it also looks really retro, which I really like. I love these colors. I also picked up Cheddar Off Dead. Truth be told, I accidentally bought the second one and forgot to buy this first one, but this one is about a cheesemonger, and she is struggling with her cheese shop, and there's this guy that writes reviews for restaurants. He leaves her a terrible review, and I think he ends up showing up dead or something like that. But I've never read a cozy mystery that's surrounded by just food, much less cheese. And we love some cheese around here. Chocolate Chip Cookie Murder by Joanna Fluke is one that you guys have recommended me quite a bit. I do know this series is like forever long, but it is one of the most popular cozy mystery series I think I've ever seen. So I had to pick it up. You guys know my taste, so I'm trusting you on this one. Next, I have another Ellie Alexander called A Batter of Life and Death. I do have the first one in this series, and I believe this one is the second, and I know great things about Ellie Alexander. I've heard nothing but amazing things, so just because of that, and I feel like she is one of the more popular cozy mystery authors that I still have yet to try, I decided to pick this one up and add it to my collection. I also have On What Grounds by Cleo Coyle, which that is such an amazing name, but this one is a coffee house mystery. Need I say more? Your girl loves coffee and she loves a good mystery. So that's all I need to know. I also have If Walls Could Talk by Juliet Blackwell. This one is a haunted home renovation mystery. I love a good paranormal kind of spooky vibe. I'm hoping this one's gonna be super fun. Next, we're gonna dive straight into the graphic novels, which is probably my favorite part about this video because I have picked up a ton lately. Some of them have been on my radar for quite a while. There's some new releases, some that are new to me that I found, and yeah, let's just go ahead and jump in, starting with our first one called Roller Girl by Victoria Jamieson. This one is about two friends, and one of them signs up for like a roller camp, but then her best friend ends up signing up for a dance camp. This one is a middle grade graphic novel that my friend Keisha continually talks about and says I need to pick up, so I think this one is gonna be super cute, and the fact that she has blue hair picture, I mean, I'm already kind of sold. I also have Katie the Cat Sitter, which is another graphic novel, and if this isn't obvious enough to you already, I picked it up because of the sheer amount of cats that are on the cover and also on the artwork inside. I couldn't say no to this. It just sounds so perfect and so cute for me. I don't know what happens, nor do I care, but all I know is that I love Katie already for being a crazy cat lady. I also have Relish, My Life in the Kitchen by Lucy Kinsley. This one sounds super cute, and obviously it's surrounded by food. I think this one is a little bit more biographical. This cover really draws me in, as well as the color palette, and I know a lot of people have read this one, but I have not yet, so decided to pick this one up. Next, I have Unfamiliar, which is about a cozy kitchen witch. I think this is actually young adult, but the reason I was so drawn to this one is the artwork is so different from anything I've ever seen. The eyes are over exaggerated, the color palette is a little bit more free-flowing, as is the art style. This just sounds so cute because I'm all into cozy fantasy these days, so it just made sense for me to pick this one up. I have another creepy kind of fall-ish themed graphic novel called Wait Till Helen Comes by Mary Downing Hahn. I actually believe this is already like a novel that was written a while ago, but it was finally made into graphic novel form. I have never read the actual story myself, but this just sounds and looks so creepy. The artwork is a little bit dark and gloomy. It looks a little bit more comic style, if that makes sense, because it's very detailed. I don't know what to expect from this, but just by flipping through some of the artwork, it looks really freaking creepy. And then I picked up City of Dragons, The Awakening Storm, which how could I not pick this up when there's dragons and this cover looks this cute? Like, are you kidding me? And the artwork is so vibrant and colorful, and if she actually keeps one of these as a pet, I think I'm gonna cry, because that is an actual dream of mine if dragons were actually real. I've never heard of this one before, called Isla to Island, but it looks absolutely gorgeous. From the inside, we start off with everything being black and white, but as we progress, everything turns to a mix of black and white and color. But when you get to the end, everything is this gorgeous, beautiful color illustration. This sounds like it's gonna be a gorgeous, touching, emotional story, and I cannot wait to dive in. Next, we have one of my all-time favorites, which is Sheets by Brenna Thumler. I will literally buy anything this girl writes or illustrates. The color palette is my favorite of all time. This story is a very slow, kind of ominous one, but it's one of my all-time favorites, and it's perfect for around spooky season because some of this I think takes place during the fall. It was just finally time for me to finally own one of my favorite graphic novels in physical form, so I'm very happy to add this to my collection. Next, I have The Secret Garden on 81st Street. I loved The Secret Garden as a kid, and this one just looks like a modern kind of retelling, and I love the art style of this one as well. It's very simple, it's very clean, but I'm very scared to see if this makes me emotional because the original story makes me emotional as it is. So I'm very just excited that they actually made this into a graphic novel form. Last but not least, I have Feelings, a story in seasons that has the most perfect color palette I think I've ever seen in my life. It's more pink and warm, you have a little bit more pastels, and there's not quite as many words, but my friend Summer absolutely loves this graphic novel, and I've always been interested in it. It's always caught my attention just because of the style and how beautiful it is, so I'm super glad to own this. And I do know this one explores more mental health kind of in seasons, so I'm really excited to dive into this because it sounds like a very kind of unique spin on mental health but also graphic novels. The Girl from the Other Side Volume 3. This one is a very dark, creepy kind of, I don't want to say fairy tale, but there's paranormal kind of fantastical creature elements. It is so hard to describe this because I've never read anything like it, but I finally found volume 3. I have not been able to find it on Amazon. I've never seen it in the bookstore. I think it's actually going to be adapted pretty soon, and I don't know if they're reprinting these anymore because they're making like bind up editions that are really pretty that I would love to own. But unfortunately, they are really expensive, so I was over the moon excited when I finally found this. I also recently read A Tale of the Secret Saint, which is adorable. I really, really liked this one. You even have like a dragon friend here on the back, and it has to do with this girl that came back to life, but she comes back reincarnated or comes back to life as one of the best knights there ever was, and so you kind of follow her through this training and you have a little bit of romance. So this definitely is one that's a little bit more heavy on the romance, but it's also super cute. Next I have In the Land of Lidale, I think is how you pronounce it. We have this girl that unfortunately is dying or passing away from an accident, and she somehow gets reincarnated or comes back alive within a video game that she has played for years, and she is her character in the video game. This was definitely a little bit different than I expected it to be. I don't know what I wanted it to be, but it's a little bit more on the cozy fantasy side versus like the high stakes kind of adventure that I was hoping for, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I would continue with the series, but it was just totally different, and it was also really cute but kind of sad at the same time. And then I have volume 2 of the Savior's Book Cafe Story in Another World. This is the epitome of cozy romantasy. That is literally all I'm going to say about this. I adored and loved the first one. The art style is like one of my favorites. You have cozy tea and food, and this girl is so quirky and cute, but I can totally relate to her on so many levels, and everybody just needs this in their life because it's so good. Next I have one that I picked up on a complete whim that just looks absolutely adorable, called Rainbow and Black, about a girl that's a college student that lives her life kind of in black and white, the mundane. She's kind of tired of life, but then this cute little like creature brings color into her life, and I'm very interested to see how it's going to happen within like a black and white manga per se, but it just looks too adorable not to read. I also picked up Kakurio Bed and Breakfast for Spirits, which looks kind of, I don't know, quirky, but it also sounds really good. Our main character actually has her grandfather's ability to see spirits, but now she's been kidnapped in the spirit world to make good on his bill. Her options are to marry the lead of the inn her grandfather trashed or get eaten by demons, but she isn't the type to let spirits push her around, and she's determined to redeem her grandfather's IOU on her own terms. So this sounds like adventurous, but also cozy at the same time. I just don't know what to expect from this. It sounds like a very mixed bag. Then I have another very quirky looking manga, but one that looks absolutely adorable, called The Country Without Humans. She is the only human left in a city inhabited by nothing but machines. As she flees through the eerie streets, hunted by the sinister Triangle Heads, she encounters a goblin named Bulb. Can she survive long enough to form a friendship with this strange golem and perhaps even discover what happened to her fellow humans? So we have a little bit more dystopian of a storyline. We have some of those kind of eerie vibes to it, being the only human left alive. I mean, can you imagine? I honestly could not, but the artwork in this looks so stinking cute. Like, I am so excited for this. And then we have Snow White and the Red Hair, which I guess is like a retelling of the classic Snow White. I see this all the time, and I see a lot of people reading it, but I know this much about it, so I'm kind of going in on a whim with this one, but it does look really cute, and it does look kind of romantic. And then I have Alharo Ride, which I actually started watching the show for, and I never finished. It was such a cute like kind of innocent type of high school romance. It's very rare that I'm in the mood for like a cutesy young adult romance anymore when it comes to manga, but I really did enjoy this one, and I actually really like this art style. It's super unique, especially like you could probably tell from the cover. It's very cutesy, but I really enjoyed the story. It's very laid back, definitely slice of life, but if you're feeling a romance, this one is really good. Last but definitely not least is The Tunnel to Summer, The Exit of Goodbyes. I have never seen this before, but it sounds so incredibly good. Kaoru heard a rumor. The laws of space and time mean nothing to the Hiroshima Tunnel. If you find it, walk through and your heart's desire will be on the other side, in exchange for years of your own life. The new transfer student, Anzu, promises to help Kaoru experiment with the mysterious tunnel, but what she does want from Kero in exchange, what will he have left to give after the tunnel's done? I guess this has already been made into a feature film, which I was completely unaware of. It also looks like we have like 4 friends on the back, which I also love a good friend dynamic. Well, there you have it, friends. There is my massive book haul. I hope you got some book recommendations from this, but also if you even made it to this point of the video, please leave me a book stack emoji because wow, there was a lot of books here. But honestly, they are all books I'm super excited about. I found some really good, like new to me kind of authors or books that I had never heard about, and I'm also super excited to jump into some new manga series. So now it's time to actually find room on my shelves for all of these new books. So wish me luck, but thank you so much for watching this video. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in my next one.